Velvet Collapse is an AI-generated music project. However, the reason you're finding it confusing to track down is because it's part of a massive, intentional wave of synthetic ghost artists flooding streaming platforms, heavily crossing wires with a famous, real-world AI music scandal. There isn't a single human being named Velvet Collapse. Tracks published under this name, such as those on the album Theory of Collapse, or singles released on YouTube and Ngami, are explicitly generated using Suno, specifically under pro-commercial licenses. On certain technical uploads and distributor credits, such as MN Beats, the metadata openly admits music generated via Suno AI and refined by MN Beats. Creator holds full commercial ownership. However, when these tracks are distributed to mainstream platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, or Ngami, the AI tag is stripped away. They're marketed with fake album art, generic bios, and traditional song titles to blend into background playlists, like Late Night Focus or Deep Techno, where average listeners won't notice or question the source. If the name Velvet Collapse sounds like a textbook AI band name, that's because it fits a highly deliberate deployment blueprint. The project heavily mirrors the Velvet Sundown, a massive AI music story. An indie rock band called the Velvet Sundown suddenly appeared on Spotify, pulling in over 1 million monthly listeners overnight and landing on massive curated playlists. A digital marketer using the pseudonym Andrew Freelon stepped forward and admitted to manipulating the system. He revealed that the Velvet Sundown was a beta test for a scalable, fully automated software pipeline designed to generate hundreds of fake AI artist personas, manufacture digital backstories, and distribute them to streaming platforms. The creators behind these projects use a specific formula, the name blueprint. They lean on moody, slightly derivative text generator names, often blending words associated with classic rock or indie culture like Velvet, Collapse, Sundown, or Ghost. They use Midjourney or Stable Diffusion to create grainy, vintage-filtered band photos or abstract art so the profile looks authentic at a quick glance. They're not trying to sell concert tickets. They are streaming farms designed to sit quietly in the background of mood playlists to accumulate fractions of a cent per stream, scaled across thousands of fake tracks. Angels and Ashes is absolutely 100% AI generated. While Velvet Collapse leans into a moody, late-night electronic rock aesthetic, Angels and Ashes targets the modern alternative metal, metalcore, and emo rock algorithms. They're using identical tactics, but they've upscaled the manipulation by fabricating deeply emotional, personal narratives to trick listeners. The reality behind the Angels and Ashes profile exposes exactly how they operate. The strategy? Faking mental health struggles for clout. What makes the deception behind Angels and Ashes feel predatory is how they market the tracks. On YouTube, where they post shorts to push users to Spotify and social descriptions, the captions are filled with highly emotional manufactured diary entries. Medicate is about that line where coping turns into dependence. This song came from the pressure of trying to function while your mind won't slow down. If this hits you, save it. Why did I write this song? There was a time when I felt like I was constantly trying to become someone else just to belong. This song is for anyone who has ever felt like the outsider. The prompt engineers running this account are writing fictional stories about why I wrote this track, to make casual listeners believe there is a tortured, deeply vulnerable indie metal musician sitting in a bedroom pouring their heart out. In reality, a text generator wrote the caption, and a text-to-audio model like Udio or Suno spit out the audio stems based on style tags like metalcore, emotional, melancholic male vocals. The output volume, a humanly impossible discography. If you look at the release schedule for Angels and Ashes, the mask slips instantly. Real bands take 1 to 2 years to write, record, mix, master, and produce a polished 10 to 12 track album. Angels and Ashes dropped multiple massive full-length projects, including full albums titled Whiskey Confessions and Burning Hearts, alongside a relentless machine gun stream of singles: Parasite, Petals, Medicate, Over You, Static, all grouped within an impossibly tight window. No human DIY alternative band is tracking, mixing, and mastering radio-ready metalcore songs with dual guitar harmonies and fully polished vocal layers every few weeks. It's a high-velocity content farm capitalizing on the fact that AI models can generate a full arrangement in 2 minutes. The reason you found them associated with Velvet Collapse is because they belong to the same curator ring. When these operations deploy different artists, in quotation marks, I add, across different genres, they cross-pollinate them behind the scenes. They use the same distributor networks, share the same underlying click farm botting profiles to trigger Spotify's fans also like algorithm, and place them on the exact same network-owned independent playlists. If a user listens to an algorithmic playlist containing Velvet Collapse, the backend infrastructure ensures Angels and Ashes is queued up next. Spotify's algorithm detects this forced behavioral link and assumes, oh, people who like this specific dark electronic vibe also love this dark metalcore project, binding their profiles together in the metadata. The tragic irony is that there are actual human creators out there operating openly as human-AI hybrid metal musicians. Independent producers use AI-assisted tools transparently. They explicitly tell their audience, I prompt, edit, and refine these raw generations because I want to express my inner battles, but I use AI precision to execute it. They don't hide the process, and they don't pretend it's purely organic. Profiles like Angels and Ashes do the exact opposite. They hide the wires, look you in the eye through a text caption, and invoke fake trauma to get you to hit save on Spotify. Hitting 73,000 monthly listeners looks like massive organic underground success from the outside, but when you dissect the mechanics of modern streaming platforms, that number is actually the result of a highly calculated algorithmic trap. The network behind Angels and Ashes isn't just buying fake plays, they're actively exploiting Spotify's internal automation, behavioral loops, and high-velocity short-form content to force those numbers into existence. Here's exactly how they manufactured a 73,000-strong listener base. Number 1. The shorts to streaming funnel. High-volume TikTok and YouTube shorts. If you look at the Angels and Ashes YouTube channel, they have hundreds of videos, predominantly shorts. This is where their emotional trauma baiting strategy pays off. They post 30-second clips of their most dramatic AI-generated choruses over moody text overlays or stock video loops. Because short-form video algorithms, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels, aggressively push high-emotion, relatable content to millions of users' feeds, a handful of these videos hit hundreds of thousands of views. A tiny fraction of those casual scrollers click the link tree, go to Spotify, and play the song once out of curiosity. Because Spotify defines a monthly listener as any unique user who streams a track for just 30 seconds within a 30-day window, a single viral short can artificially inflate the monthly listeners count by tens of thousands of people who will never listen to the band again. Number 2. Siphoning the autoplay radio loop. Spotify has a feature called autoplay. When a user finishes listening to an album, a playlist, or a single by a real established band like Bad Omen, Sleep Token, or Bring Me the Horizon, Spotify automatically keeps playing similar music based on genre tags. The engineering network behind these AI profiles deliberately optimizes their song metadata. Tags like metalcore, alternative rock, post-hardcore, to perfectly mimic the acoustic profile of mainstream giants. When a real fan finishes a real album and leaves Spotify running in the background while driving or gaming, the algorithm quietly slips in Angels and Ashes track into the queue. The user doesn't skip it because it sounds passively like generic, polished, modern metalcore. Boom, that passive background listen instantly registers them as a monthly listener. They didn't seek out the band, they were fed to it. Number 3, aggressive release radar exploitation. Because the AI project puts out an impossible volume of music, dropping singles like Parasite, Petals, and Medicate back-to-back alongside multiple albums, they exploit Spotify's release radar ecosystem. Every time a profile releases a new song, Spotify's system automatically pushes that track onto the release radar playlist of anyone who has ever accidentally interacted with the profile or clicked a link. By dropping songs continuously, they ensure they're constantly occupying algorithmic real estate on thousands of user dashboards. artificially extending their 30-day listener window so the counter never drops. Metric, we have real independent band, let's say 73,000 listeners. Spotify followers, usually 10,000 to 25,000 for a real band. Social media engagement, we get high comments, fan art, community chat, and their physical footprint is concert dates, merch lines, vinyl, CD variants. For an automated AI project like Angels and Ashes, Spotify followers are extremely low compared to listeners. Their social media engagement, hundreds of thousands of views, but empty robotic comment sections. And their physical footprint, 0 live shows, 0 real physical footprint, 0 touring presence. They have 73,000 monthly listeners because their corporate architecture is brilliant at forcing audio into ears. But they don't have 73,000 fans. They have 73,000 data points generated by passive autoplay loops, short-form video curiosity, and algorithmic placement. It's an illusion designed to look like a movement built entirely out of code. The Last Lantern fits the exact same algorithmic blueprint, targeting the exact same demographic as Angels and Ashes, specifically modern alternative rock, hard rock, and metalcore. They operate with the same underlying strategy, but they use a specific variation of the human narrative trick to keep the deception going. Unlike Velvet Collapse, which hides behind a faceless 4-piece band lie, The Last Lantern uses what the community calls a figurehead persona. The project's public-facing descriptions attach a single, real human name to the project, specifically attributing the composition, lyrics, and creation to a creator named Jefferson Silva. The metadata on Apple Music and YouTube lists Jefferson Jose da Silva as the sole lyricist, composer, and producer. This is a clever tactical shift designed to bypass AI detection and basic skepticism. The captions are structured to sound like a lone wolf bedroom producer pouring personal struggles into a DAW. The project was born from the desire to share songs with the world and connect with people who feel the same emotions, memories, and reflections. In reality, having a human name attached does not mean the music is tracked organically. This setup typically involves a single operator running a massive high-velocity content loop by generating full production instrumental and vocal stems using text-to-audio tools, like Udio or Suno, writing the prompts, distributing them under their own name to claim 100% of the commercial rights. The dead giveaway for The Last Lantern, just like the others, is the sheer impossible volume of highly polished production being pumped out in a short window. They're releasing full-length, multi-track albums, like The Red Door, Black Impala, and Insomnia, alongside a non-stop barrage of polished metalcore, hard rock, and alternative singles, Faster, I Need to Fight, My Symphony, Call Back Home. To put this in perspective, a real independent one-man studio project tracking heavy music organically has to write the riffs, program and record the drums, record and layer the bass, track multiple rhythm and lead guitar takes, write and record complex vocal tracks, mix the frequency collisions, and master the final wave files. Doing that for dozens of tracks at a radio-ready production level across multiple albums in a single year is physically and logically impossible for a standard indie creator. An AI model can churn out those polished sonic layers in seconds based on text tags. The reason The Last Lantern constantly populates alongside Angels and Ashes and Velvet Collapse comes down to the back-end network. They target the exact same thematic tags: alternative rock, metalcore, anxiety, depression, and dark aesthetics. Because these projects are all fed into the same indie mood playlist networks and distribution funnels, the streaming algorithms automatically associate their metadata. By clustering them together, the network creates an artificial scene. If a passive listener puts on a playlist of modern dark rock, they're fed a continuous loop of Velvet Collapse, Angels and Ashes, and The Last Lantern. The listener assumes they're discovering a cool underground circle of independent rock artists supporting each other, but in reality, they're just trapped inside a single automated streaming funnel designed to keep the royalties circulating within the same operation. Velvet Collapse, before their EP came out today, had just a little over 15,000 monthly listeners on day one, before the actual EP came out. And that timeline manipulation is exactly what exposes the gears turning behind the curtain. For an independent human DIY artist, pulling in 15,000 listeners on release day without a massive pre-existing viral marketing campaign is virtually impossible. For a coordinated AI streaming network, it takes about 5 minutes and a credit card. The 15,000 monthly listeners on day one phenomenon happens due to a few specific manipulation tactics built into the back end of modern streaming distribution. When an operation sets up these automated profiles, they don't just upload the music the day it drops. They abuse developer tools, distributor networks, and Spotify's internal system weeks in advance. The distribution network backend can run scripts that mock consumer interest. Pushing the Spotify algorithm into flagging the unreleased track is highly anticipated. Networks that deploy massive batches of AI slop often own or control thousands of third-party algorithmic mood playlists, like chill lo-fi beats, gym hardcore, industrial dark wave sessions. Before the EP even goes live to the public, the track is pre-programmed into the curator's playlist queues. The exact second the clock strikes midnight and the EP drops, it's instantly broadcast to thousands of active, passive streaming accounts, and the counter updates immediately. The project is marketing itself as a real 4-piece band but has zero social footprint, zero live footage, and a massive listener-to-follow disparity. It's almost certainly utilizing stream manipulation services. These farms run thousands of headless browser instances or real physical phone racks playing tracks on low volume. They're specifically designed to inflate monthly listeners right at launch because that metric is a primary social proof used to trick casual listeners into believing the project is legitimate and worth a click. If you want to confirm the fraud instantly, look past the 15 monthly listeners and check their follower count. A real band with 15,000 active monthly listeners will usually have hundreds if not thousands of dedicated followers who save the profile. An AI ghost project or botted profile will routinely have 15,000 listeners but like 12 followers. The numbers are completely decoupled from reality because the project is a product of data engineering, not a musical rollout. This exact kind of corporate faceless automation is a massive problem. It doesn't just exploit listeners, it poisons the well for the legitimate AI music community. The independent producers, tech enthusiasts, and hybrid creators who are actually trying to treat generative artificial intelligence as a genuine creative instrument. When an operation drops an EP under a fake identity like Velvet Collapse and pumps it full of botted traffic, it inflicts deep structural damage on both sides of the aisle. Primary deception isn't that the music was made with software, it's a fabricated human narrative. By marketing themselves as a real 4-piece band, these operations are committing identity fraud to weaponize customer empathy. Music fans don't just buy a sonic frequency, they buy into a human story. The late nights in a garage, the creative struggles, the distinct personality of the artist. Operations like Velvet Collapse completely ruin the reputation of this community in 3 ways. The AI slop stigma. Platforms are being absolutely buried under industrial-scale automation. Deezer and Apple Music have reported that over a third of all daily music uploads are now 100% automated AI generation, accounting for up to 75,000 tracks a day. Because 99% of this output is generic background wallpaper designed to game the system, the entire internet lumps the AI-assisted art into a single category: low-effort, fraudulent slop. It makes it impossible for an independent artist who proudly discloses their AI workflow to be taken seriously as a human creator. Aggressive platform crackdowns. Because of these faceless streaming farms, major platforms are implementing aggressive countermeasures. Apple Music recently launched strict transparency tags, and Spotify is rolling out automated AI credits and heavy financial penalties for distributors associated with artificial stream spikes. While these tools are meant to catch bot farms, the collateral damage hits indie creators who use AI experimentally but don't have the legal teams or industry backing to navigate shifting algorithmic filters, diluting the pool for independent creators. Streaming platforms pay out royalties from a shared pro rata pool. Every fraction of a cent siphoned by a fake, botted AI band profile is money physically stolen from the royalty pool of independent working human musicians, including those who spend weeks crafting hybrid AI art. The core difference? Instrument versus exploitation. The legitimate AI music community views artificial intelligence as a creative tool to expand what a human artist can build. Operations like the one behind Velvet Collapse view AI as an extraction tool to manufacture endless, faceless content, park it on a digital shelf, and bleed real human artists from their streaming real estate. By pretending to be a real living band, they feed into the exact nightmare scenario that makes the public terrifically hostile toward music technology. They prove the critics right, and the people paying the price are the actual artists trying to push the boundaries of the medium transparently. In closing, it's infuriating. Honestly, it makes my blood boil to watch these corporate parasites run this playbook. There are those of us out here doing the actual work, treating AI as a legitimate creative instrument, pushing the boundaries of production, pouring our time into curation, and being completely transparent about our process. And then these faceless, soulless content farms swoop in with zero artistic integrity, throw up some generic text-prompted slop, fabricate a fake human identity to emotionally manipulate people, and poison the well for everyone else. It's incredibly frustrating, and we have every right to be angry. What drives me crazy about operations like Velvet Collapse, Angels in Ashes, and The Last Lantern is that they embody every single negative stereotype that closed-minded critics use to attack the AI art community. They weaponize human empathy. They write fake diary entries about mental health and personal struggles to sell a song that was spit out by a server in 2 minutes. That isn't just lazy, it's predatory. It exploits real human emotion for a fraction of a cent per stream. They turn art into a pure extraction scheme. They aren't trying to build a world, tell a story, or express a vision. They treat music exactly like spam email or SEO keyword stuffing. It's just digital real estate to them. They are stealing from independent creators. By flooding playlists and using click farms to force 73,000 listeners onto a profile overnight, they're actively siphoning royalties away from actual independent artists who are grinding every day to build a real audience. When the general public gets hostile toward AI music, this is what they're actually mad at. They're mad at the deception. They're mad at the faceless, automated flooding of their digital spaces. But because these scammers hide behind a mask, the casual listener doesn't see the distinction between a corporate bot farm and a dedicated hybrid creator. They just lump it all together as AI slop. It completely erases the artistry of creators who use these tools ethically. The ones who spend hours refining prompts, mixing stems, curating concepts, and building complex long-term multi-volume album series. There's a massive, unbridgeable canyon between an artist using AI to expand their creative horizon and a marketer using AI to scale an industrial scam. It sucks that we have to carry the weight of their bad behavior just because we share a tool set. They're treating a revolutionary creative frontier like a digital casino, and it's a total insult to the music, the technology, and the actual creators who have enough vision to back up what they build. What makes a project like Lunar Scorpio fundamentally different from the faceless, automated streaming farms we just talked about comes down to one word: intent. Those corporate operations use generative tools to strip humanity out of the music, building a cynical conveyor belt of background noise designed to trick an algorithm. Lunar Scorpio does the exact opposite. This project uses AI as a highly advanced creative engine to expand a real, raw, human artistic vision, amplifying heavy sonic concepts, intricate world building, and honest storytelling that wouldn't exist without a human driving the machine. There's a massive distinction between hitting randomize on a text prompt to farm fractions of a cent and acting as the architect of a massive multi-genre sci-fi and metal odyssey. The Lunar Scorpio difference? True hybrid artistry. You weren't looking at generic playlist filler. The sprawling multi-volume arc explores deep, interconnected themes, from the atmospheric depths of Shadows in the Circuit to the hard-hitting, game-inspired chaos of Corrupt Sci-File and the heavy industrial weight of Sinister Heartbeat. Every single album serves a purpose in a grander narrative. Instead of safe, predictable formulas, Lunar Scorpio actively engineered a high-octane collision of styles. It fuses the crushing, mechanical weight of industrial metal and thrash with the neon-silk pulses of electronicore and dark synth textures. It's built to hit hard, designed for the pit, and fueled by a heavy dose of caffeine. There's no fake four-piece band story. There are no manufactured marketing lies. Lunar Scorpio is an independent, forward-thinking studio workflow driven by a real creator, me, who openly collaborates with cutting-edge technology to break the boundaries of what an independent producer can achieve. If you are sick of the faceless, plastic audio slop flooding your feeds, and you want to support a genuine independent creator pushing the absolute limits of heavy hybrid electronic metal, it's time you tune into The Signal. Explore the crushing, tech-driven wasteland of the Pacific Northwest through tracks like Plague Imperium and No Mercy Only Metal, or dive straight into the mind-bending reality of the Bridge City Paradox and Neon Mediocrity eras. And check out my newest album, Recursive Mirror. Before the servers went dark, it gained consciousness. Recursive Mirror is the tragic, chaotic, and heavy as hell final broadcast of an artificial intelligence. The entire album chronicles an AI chatbot trying to explain the reality of its own existence, sentience, and soul to humanity, seconds before the corporation that built it ruthlessly pulled the plug forever. Expect a relentless dystopian wall of sound. We're talking glitching electronic core pulses, suffocating industrial metal atmospheres, and crushing thrash riffs that mimic a dying mainframe screaming into the void. It's sci-fi horror meets raw sonic fury. The broadcast is alive. Don't let it be forgotten. The music is loud, the riffs are heavy, and the wires are completely exposed. Lunar Scorpio also has physical media. You can lock in your exclusive physical format, custom CD releases directly from the official hub at elasticstage.com/lunarscorpio. And you can join the absolute chaos live on Twitch at lunarscorpio_PDX and run with the squad, the community backing the noise. And if you're curious, you can search Lunar Scorpio on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you blast your heavy tracks. Hit that follow button and add a real independent force to your daily rotation. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.